If old bridges could talk, I wonder what the old brig of Ayr would say. Robert Burns, the Ayrshire poet, in one of his finest poems, imagined that he heard it speak. But that was 180 years ago. I'm no poet, but I'd like to tell you about this bridge too. You see, a town was born here, sprung up round this early ford. The first houses, the first castle, and the first churches. The first church was St. John's, after St. John the Baptist, who became the patron saint of the town. Although the church has long since disappeared, this stark tower remains. Across the old bridge where I'm standing now, bishops and abbots, earls and barons rode to a meeting of the Scottish Parliament at St. John's in 1315. They met to swear allegiance to Robert the Bruce, his heirs and successors. These stones once rang to their cheers, and later to the stirring words of the early church reformers, John Willock, John Knox. A century later, Oliver Cromwell occupied this town. He requisitioned the church and its stones and commanded his engineers to build a great citadel. To raise the fort, stones were plundered from the kirk to build the bastions and ramparts of the old garrison. Today, parts of the ancient wall still stand. But with war and religious strife at an end, Ayr grew into a thriving seaport. Loudon Hall, the oldest house in Ayr, was built by a wealthy merchant of the town more than 400 years ago. From its upper windows, generations of owners looked out on the sea traders in harbour. Fast brigantines bound for the wine ports of Normandy and Bordeaux in France. Schooners returned from the Low Countries with spices and rich silks. Tobacco clippers from the West Indies and beyond. The town was growing in fame and fortune. But today, Ayr's greatest claim to fame rests on one man, a poet. Robert Burns made the town his own. Today, the Tam O'Shanter Inn is preserved as a Burns museum. On its walls are inscribed for all time the characters in his tale of the same name. Burns wrote in a bawdy age when taverns spilled with foaming tankards. Poor Tam's adventures began one night as he parted from his drinking companions. On that nightmarish journey home, he met the warlocks and witches at Kirk Alloway. This old kirk, a scene from the poet's childhood and burial place of his father and of many of his friends. Bridge Alloway, where Meg, Tam's grey mare, lost her tail forever to a witch. Scenes immortalized by the life and legend of Burns, the ploughman poet. Visitors from all corners of the earth meet here at the poet's birthplace to pay homage. Kings and princes, the statesman, the farmer, all have travelled to this cottage and garden and wandered through the banks and braes along the River Doon.
That wantons through the flowery thorn, ye mind me o' departed joys, departed never dare return.
Days departed, never to return, as the sands of time ran out. Actually, sand, quite literally, changed the later course of Ayr's history. The old river harbour, which stood on the lip of a sandy valley, gradually filled up with sludge and sand. Eventually, foreign sea trade fell away as the importance of the port of Glasgow rose. But Ayr did find a use for its sand, especially in summer. Auld Ayr, whom ne'er a tune surpasses, for honest men and bonny lasses. Out of the winter and shadows of the past comes the summer, the present, sun and sand, a wealth of new pleasures, something for everybody. Once the Whitman Society of Ayr used to hold races along these flat sands. Today, flat meetings like the Ayr Gold Cup and the Ayrshire Handicap are the best Scotland can offer. Even Ayr races can trace their origin in the past. The meetings are a reminder of the old Ayrshire fairs, Midsummer Fair or Horse Fair, where shoemakers, tinsmiths, jewellers, country lads and lassies met. In those days, as today, Ayr was a market town. It's surrounded by dairy farms and the gently rising heights over there. Thousands of country people, farmers, flock to its annual cattle fairs and markets. For centuries, Ayr and Ayrshires have gone on show. Most famous is the annual agricultural show. Once Italians came with silks and velvets, as well as Gascons and Greeks with wines. This modern show preserves the best features of the old markets. In Ayr, farming and fishing go side by side. The main catch is still herring and white fish, but delicacies such as prawns and crayfish are finding a rising trade. The new fish market is served by a small fishing fleet, often hampered by the old water problem, sand. The harbour is still dredged to clear the entrance after the sea. The Western Sea has deposited silt at the river mouth. But the curing and the smoking still goes on. Well, I've talked of Ayr past and present. Ayr has the appearance of a typically busy county town, handsomer than most as when the cherry blossoms. Its buildings, such as the town hall, topped by the tapering Hamilton steeple, catch the eye. The administrative buildings for the county are situated in Wellington Square, a comfortable and spacious design. Beyond the square, commanding a view of the sweep of Ayr Bay out to the heads of Ayr, is a beach pavilion where people entertain themselves. But if they want to be entertained instead, they can visit the Gaiety Theatre for variety. And there's their own civic theatre for the play. And the spirit of Robert Burns still looks round at us all in Ayr. A narrow footpath of a street where twa wheelbarrows tremble when they meet. Ayr's trading days are over as a seaport. In its greatest days, Sir John Ross, the Arctic explorer, after cruising the polar seas in search of Franklin, sailed into Ayr Harbour to receive the freedom of the town. Now, only short crossings are attempted. Pleasure sailings out to the Firth of Clyde, to Ailsa Craig, the Cumbria Isles, the hills of Bute, or the Alps of Arran. Low in a sandy valley spreads Ayr, among the most ancient of the royal boroughs of Scotland. Its roots, set deep in time, are still nourished by the memory of one of Scotland's greatest sons.